Hi, welcome to the Elle Russ Show, where I deliver content intended to inspire, educate, and motivate. Engage with me online at elleruss.com and on social media. Enjoy the show. Today, my guest is Ken Coleman, the best-selling author of The Proximity Principle and his latest book, From Paycheck to Purpose. Pulling from his own personal struggles, missed opportunities, and career successes, Ken helps people discover what they were born to do and provides practical steps to make their dream job a reality. Connect with Ken on social media or visit him online at kencoleman.com to learn more. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Elle, thank you so much for having me.
All right, listen, from paycheck to purpose, boy, doesn't everybody want that. I think especially in the past couple of years, a lot of turmoil in people's lives. They're wondering, hey, what's my life worth? Life is short. People have started to realize how wonderful it is to work at home and have some autonomy there. So let's talk about why you decided to jump into writing about this topic.
Because I'm just so burdened is the word to see that the predominant worldview of work is that we work to live as opposed to live to work. So work to live means that most people see work as a utilitarian function. I work to get a paycheck so that I can pay for my housing, pay for my transportation, pay for my meals, pay for utilities, clothing, the basics. And then if I have enough left over, I can maybe make some memories. This is the predominant worldview of work, that I work to provide only. And while we do work and must work to provide, there's so much more to work. And I think if we can grab this idea that every human being on the planet longs to make a difference, we want to make a contribution to this world. And when we could see work as that unique way to make a contribution, then we could begin to go, wait a second, it's possible to make a great freaking paycheck, but also experience tremendous meaning. And so can you make money and experience meaning in the workplace? The answer is unequivocally, emphatically, yes. However, we're not taught that. And so our experience, the environment that we grow up in around work is generally hearing somebody complain about it, or just it's something I got to put up with, or you don't hear much excitement about it. It may not be awful, but it's certainly not exciting, somewhere in between. And so the reality is that if we all sit silently for a moment, nobody ever has to teach a toddler. If you think about this, you don't have to teach a toddler how to say no or to steal a toy from another toddler. They should do it. And nobody has to teach a human being to wonder, why am I here? Like, nobody teaches you that in school. It's not force fed to you by your parents. Why? And I think it's because we know that we long to make a difference in the lives of others. And so I want people to start to see work as a way to make your unique contribution in the world. I think there's purpose in our relational lives and our professional lives. So that's the short of answers I can give on something that I'm really passionate about. And I wanted people to see that there is a clear path. There actually is a clear, doable, practical path to move from working just for a paycheck to working on purpose.
And you lay that out in your book so elegantly. I do want to jump in and go, hey, well, so what about these people that I think there's a couple of problems here I see. One is people think, well, should I do that job? That makes good money. I'd be good at that. Not that they love it, but I think I'd be good at that. So that's not passion, right? Either.
No.
And then, and then I also know people who think they want to do something because that lifestyle or that seems like a cool thing, but they're not compelled to do it. There's no passion behind it either. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100% do. So here's the deal. So when you don't have a construct for clarity, like you don't have a way of answering the question, what should I do with my life? Then you meander, you wander around aimlessly at times, searching, looking for it, making half-baked decisions like those two scenarios you just gave us. So what I teach, as you know, Elle, in the book, is in stage one, the very first stage, we got to identify the mountain. And so we get clear is stage one. So how do we do that? It's pretty simple. There's three elements to every human being, as I believe, and as I've laid it out in the book. It's talent, passion, and mission. Talent's what I'm good at. You could take rough talent, you take a ball of clay, if you will, and through the applied pressure of the potter's hands and the centrifugal force of the potter's wheel, and then the water, it's shaped into something very usable. So talent can be turned into sharpened skill. So those are the tools. Think of our talents and skills as the tools, premium tools that we will use to do the work we love, which is passion. So talent is what we do best. Passion is work we love to do. Think of a task, a role, a function that you look forward to. You think about it, you get excited. When you're doing it in the middle of it, you experience what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi famously studied for 30 plus years, which is called a state of flow. Literally, he referred to it as a state of ecstasy. So a mental ecstasy of, time stands still and you're just experiencing flow when you're doing something that you deeply love. And then all work creates results. So the final piece to this is I use what I do best, talent, to do work I love, passion, to produce results that matter deeply to me. So this is the mission. And so if we can produce results through doing work that we love, if the results matter and they connect to our value system, or maybe to some deep pain in our lives, a problem we resoundingly want to solve, that's usually the case, then now we can see true alignment and we see that, oh, I'm on purpose because I'm using what I do best to do work I love to produce results that matter to me. This is the answer to that. Oh, should I try this? What about this? Because once we have alignment of who we really are, then they come together and form an arrow that points out to the world at work. Now we can look at multiple jobs and career paths and go, all right, are these on purpose for me? Because if the answer is yes, then there's where we explore. There's where we go test and try and interview and talk to people who are winning in those areas and see where the heart goes ding, 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 or eh. And so it's clarity, which then breeds confidence to step out and do the work that we know we were born to do, and courage to stay on the path. See, clarity always breeds confidence, and confidence breeds courage. But absence of clarity, there won't be confidence to step out, and you can't summon courage. You just can't. You can't summon courage just out of nowhere. That's all a bunch of gobbledygook you see on social media by people who have no idea what they're talking about. Courage comes from clarity and confidence. And, we see this, and give you an example. If we've ever heard a story or read a story or seen a story on TV of an everyday person heroically saving the life of someone else, putting their life in danger in the process, that three-step process is happening instantaneously. They come up on a burning car, they quickly assess the person in there needs to be rescued or they're going to die. They secondly pretty quickly assess no one else is around. It's got to be me. I'm pretty sure I can do it. It's got to be me. I'm doing it. And before they know it, they've done it. And they ask them later, what was going through your head? And they're like, nothing. I just knew I had to act. That's clarity, confidence, and courage instantaneously happening. It is the clarity that gives us the confidence to act. And then when life throws its fear and doubt our way, and it will, we summon courage when we need it because we're clear that we're supposed to be doing it. We know how we're supposed to be doing it, where we're supposed to be doing it, and we know that we can actually do it. And so when fear and doubt come our way, we're able to step through those.
What do you have to say for the skeptics who are the creative endeavors? A lot of people be like, hey, look, I'm talented. I'm clear about it. I'm qualified. I got all the stuff.
Yeah.
But man, it's so hard to become an opera singer, or it's so tough to become a famous musician, or to become an actor that can actually make a living at it, or those professions that don't have defined benchmarks like other industries, right? It's harder even for people to wrap their head around pursuing those. What do you have to say to those people who are like, oh, easy for you to say, Ken, if we're talking about jobs you can go apply to on LinkedIn, I can't get it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'd say they don't know my story, and I'd say they're full of crap.
Right.
So,
Anything's possible. We'll talk it through with those people, or
yeah,
talking down off the ledge of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing I'd say is, well, I was 33 when I decided to change gears from preparing for a life to run for office, and I was a vice president of a company and had three kids and a wife and a mortgage. And at 33, went through some pretty soul crushing uncertainty, questioning whether politics was it, realizing that it wasn't it, not quite sure what was next because I had been planning for this since I was 16. Very on purpose and very, very ambitious and very, very aggressive, and had laid a nice path out, but then realizing that's not it. So I went through the process, and what I teach comes from what I lived. And I would go on to tell that person that I started taking a broadcasting school with a bunch of 20-year-olds when I was 33. 33 is ancient to get into broadcasting. And I would say broadcasting is as tough, if not tougher, to win and get in than even acting, because there's a lot more acting jobs than there are broadcasting jobs. It's very, very difficult. And so I would say that it is possible, but I would say that it's going to take longer than the average career. There's no question about that. It took me 7.5 years to make it to Ramsey Solutions, 3 more years of paying my dues in my sweet spot, but 3 more years of paying my dues to get the dream job. So I'd say, hey, I'm the decade plan guy. So A, I know what I'm talking about. B, you don't. And C, I'm going to be compassionate on you because the fact is you're scared.
Yep.
You're scared to death. And you are using the difficulty and the scarcity as an excuse. And you're trying to make yourself look reasonable and smart. And all that is a big giant excuse.
That's
So,
so great because there's other people that they did it. So, right?
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So let's hear a couple of 180-degree turnarounds, examples of people you've coached over the years. Like, maybe let's hear about your biggest skeptical client who then really crushed it and was able to find their dream job. I think hearing of people that were stuck in something they hated and now doing what they love is
Yeah.
really motivating and inspiring for other people listening.
Oh man, there's so many, Elle. Um, I'll give you a couple that just kind of hit me really quick. My favorite are the ones for your audience that doesn't know much about me. I host a daily show, radio show. Of course, we podcast it. It's live on YouTube as well, but it's Sirius XM and syndicated radio show, and it's a call-in show. So I've got men and women calling me, and all different walks of life, but generally around, hey, I'm stuck, or I know what I want to do, I don't know how to get there, or I have no idea what I want to do. And I remember the first time I had somebody who was just adamant. Because I have a lot of people who call in and go, Ken, I'm not sure what I want to do and I need your help. So they're at least saying, I know you can help me and I want you to help me. This lady called in and she was like, I don't know what I want to do. And friends told me I need to listen to your show, but I just don't think you can help me. And she was like, it's kind of like, then why'd you call me? Like you dialed in, you're live on.
I'm a lost cause. Help me.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It was kind of like, she was like, here I am. I'm a disaster. You can't do anything with me, but here you go. And she was really closed off. And I remember realizing that in the moment. And I'm approaching 5,000 calls now. I've done live on the air. So it's a lot of calls and you get better and better and better and you learn how to really hear what's going on underneath. And so this is probably about a year ago. So I had enough experience where I just called her on her BS. And I knew that that's what it was going to take. You know what I mean? It was kind of like I needed to give her an audio slap and just slap her back and make her wake up. And so I just called her out. And I said, well, it doesn't sound like you want to be on the air, but since you're still on the air, um, you're telling me you've never had one thought, not one time, not one iota, one little scintilla of a thought about what you'd want to do, even when you were a little girl. And she just started laughing almost hysterically. And she admitted, yeah, I've always wanted to do this. And so I was able to quickly take her back. And I think she said she was 14 and she had told her dad one day that she wanted to work with horses and train horses. And he unintentionally um, scoffed. And in her mind, a 14-year-old girl heard that he laughed about it and said it was a silly idea. And it crushed her. And she described it and she was still kind of upbeat. And I let her finish. And then I said, how did that make your heart feel when your dad said that to you? And she immediately started sobbing. So long story short, she was kind of a tough nut, but when somebody presents and tells me, they have no idea, it's absolutely not true. What's really going on is they think they're a fraud. They think their ideas are fantastical and silly because somewhere in their life, someone unintentionally is what happens most of the time. Someone of influence in their life unintentionally, sometimes intentionally, craps all over their heart and they don't recover from it. That's one that came up. The other one is when you asked me the question, the one that came to mind that I really thought was fun was early on in the show. And a guy called Charlotte, North Carolina, and he said, I love the way these people open up. What they don't realize, Elle, is they tell me so much by the way they open up their
Of
face.
course.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
by the time they finish their question, I already know what's going on. And that's based on experience. But anyway, he said, Ken, I don't know, man. I don't know if you can help me, man. But here's the deal. Went to school for production, director, TV producer. Uh, did it in my early 20s. Very successful. Through a series of events, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Wife and 2 kids. We're settled. We're locked in Charlotte. And so I know what I want to do. I'm not happy in my work. I know what I want to do, production, television, and film, but I can't move to LA or New York. I have no idea what to do. What do you think? And I said to him, I didn't say anything else. I just said, how many production companies that do video, how many production companies that do that are in the Charlotte area, top of your head? And he just literally starts laughing. He goes, oh, I don't know, Ken, maybe 20, 25, 30. I go, yeah.
Right.
And I go,
Start there.
who says you got to move somewhere to go somewhere in your career? See, there is this idea that we've got to move zip codes. We got to move somewhere to make progress in our journey. And I ended up, because of him, I ended up in my second book, The Proximity Principle. I wrote a whole chapter on you start where you are. And I call it the law of the zip code, which says everything you need to get started is already around you. So whether you're pivoting at the age of 55 or you're coming out of college and you went to school for 1 degree and you realize I don't want to use that, I want to go somewhere else. It doesn't matter who you are, how old you are. To restart, to pivot, to start, period. Everything you need to get started on the journey, I don't care what the journey is, it's already around you. And in his case, what he needed, and I proceeded to tell him, was like, hey, you need to go get connected, man. You got an incredible resume. You need to go get connected at all these production companies and say, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I've done. I got a full-time job over here. If they don't have a job that you're qualified for that's open, just go, hey, I want to help out on set. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I said, just start adding value, getting involved, get back in the industry in Charlotte, North Carolina. I said, it won't be any time. If you're as good as you say you are and as qualified as you say you are, you're going to get a gig. And I got an email from him 4 weeks later, and he got a job offered by doing just what I told him to do. So those are 2 that pop out, like 180 mental attitude, and then 180 on perspective. Like, oh, wait a second.
So on that, you mentioned like, hey, you got to get connected with these people. So getting connected with the right people is obviously one of the tenets here. And I think there's a lot of people that would be listening and be like, I don't know anyone. How do you get to know anyone? I don't know. Can't afford to go to big benefits or meet the right people. I don't play golf or, these kind of things. What are some suggestions for having people connect with the right people who can open the doors for whatever profession you might be in?
Well, again, you have to blow up the wrong perception. You got a narrative problem. The narrative in that question, by the way, it's the right question. I get that question all the time. But for that person, I would quickly go, you already know everybody you need to know. And they're going to look at me like, oh, geez, Ken's not on his meds. He doesn't understand me. And I just let them look at me for a second. I go, all right. And by the way, I've done this on the air at least 20 times. I've had this call. And I'll say, how many people, ballpark, would you say you know? Friends, family, co-workers, acquaintances, parents of, your kids' friends, blah, 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 social media, whatever. And these are the people that call and go, I don't know enough people. I hardly know anybody. And it's crazy, Elle. I do not manufacture this. No voodoo. Almost every time they'll go 100, 150, 200 people. And I'll go, okay. How many people would you say each of those people know? And then they start laughing because the answer is 100, 150, 200 people. So now all of a sudden you have access to 40,000 people, right? 30,000 people, 20,000 people on any of those examples. That's what you have access to. And the whole point is that I'm blowing up the narrative in their mind that they don't know enough people, which is total garbage. So the reality is that we've all heard of this fun game, 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or 6 degrees, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea here is that you do know enough people. And so it starts with your inner circle and then the next level out of your acquaintances. In fact, famed sociologist by the name of Mark Granovetter did a study years ago that showed that most people get jobs through their acquaintances, or what he called loose ties. So people that you would stop and talk to if you saw them, but you're not doing life with them. And so you got to start to get real to go, wait a second. The more I tell people about what I want to do and why I want to do it, and I ask them to make a connection for me, that's going to lead to another connection, and that connection could lead to another connection. And so this is a process. Think of it like a spider web. You got to draw a spider web, and you're making connections. But the reality is that we're probably 2 or 3 people away from just about anybody we really wanted to get to if we wanted to get to them. Now the issue is, do you want to? And I don't mean like, would you like to? There's a difference, by the way, Elle, between I would like to versus I want to. So, for instance, someone says to me, I'd like to lose 30 pounds. Oh, great. Do you want to? In fact, the person who says I'd like to lose 30 pounds doesn't want to. They just like the idea of it.
Yes.
They don't want to lose 30 pounds. The person who wants to lose 30 pounds is doing it.
I was going to say they are. It's a present. It's not a future.
Yeah, but you know what else too? It's also not. There are people who say I would like to be in shape, and then there's people who go, I want to live a healthy life. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So for the person who says, I don't know enough people, that's a mindset issue, versus the person who says, I'm going to meet the right people. Big difference.
Success is learning from your failures. You've kind of banked a career on some of them, right? Let's talk about some of your downslopes. Let's talk about some of your epic failures right now.
Yeah, which category? Yeah, this is like Trivial Pursuit. Pick a category.
Right, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just say, what are some of the monumental ones that you can think of that really shifted your perspective, or and then maybe one where it seemed like a debacle but ended up being a blessing?
Yeah, I write about one of those debacles in the book. It's a pretty funny story. I am trying to think of the short way to tell this. So the short version is, I knew I had finally figured out that I wanted to go into broadcasting, but I wasn't sure if it was sports broadcasting. I knew it wasn't hard news. I love sports. I still love sports, talking sports, or if it was going to be more of this personal growth area, and that was kind of nebulous. And I was like, I don't know. So I was thinking, okay, I can get into sports, and I could always cross over if I make it in sports. So I kind of committed, like, I'm going this way. So I had some good relationships. I turned those into an opportunity to get a demo, because in the broadcasting world, to get hired, you got to have a demo, which is traditionally between 2 to 5 minutes of you doing camera work. And so the problem is I'm 33. I haven't done any camera work. I don't have a degree in it, so I don't even have any college stuff to draw on. So now I've got to actually do something, but it's almost like I couldn't do it. So I had to manufacture it. So anyway, I had a friend of a friend who, I had a friend in Charlotte, North Carolina, who was a well-known NASCAR reporter. And so I called him up and I said, hey man, I got to get a demo. Could you help me out? Anybody in Atlanta that I could, do some fake highlights or something. He's like, yeah. Let me make a couple calls. So he calls me back. He says, hey, I got a friend of mine who does a NASCAR highlight show every Sunday. It's a 30-minute show. He's willing to help me out as a favor for you. So go down there this Sunday and they'll set you all up, and he'll have you record a couple highlight packages. And he'll give you the tape. I was like, oh man, this is great. And I've watched SportsCenter 8 billion times, Elle. So I'm like, oh, I got this. And he didn't tell me much. He didn't tell me how to prepare. He's just like, yeah, go down there and take care of it. So I go down there, no clue, naive, all confident that I'm going to go in and crush this. And I remember getting there and watching this guy do half of a show. And I was like, wow, that's pretty fast. And I started feeling a little tinge of nerves. And I was like, wow, this is no joke. There's a whole crew here. So the guy wraps his show up, comes over. I've never met this dude in my life. It's just a friend of a friend. And he goes, hey, man, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you in the chair. That last package, we're going to play it for you. Did you watch it? I was like, yeah, I watched it. He goes, watch it real quick, and then we'll run it back. And here's my show sheet, and you can run the highlights. And I'm like, Elle, it literally was the same as this astronaut going, hey, Ken, here's the deal. Did you see me do the takeoff? I'm going to put you in the, I'm going to put you at the control panel. We're going to launch the rocket. That's what it felt like. I was like,
Hmm.
whoa, 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 whoa. But I'm so nervous. I'm so new. I'm naive. I don't go, tell me this right. So next thing you know, I'm watching this highlight package and I got his show notes in front of me and I'm reading the teleprompter and you've got the highlights on video above the prompter, but you're looking at the same camera. So long story short, it feels like air traffic control and it's going 100 miles an hour. So he's like, okay, Ken, you ready to go? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm totally not ready. So he starts the highlights. And within about 5 or 7 seconds, I'm behind. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those blooper reels where like a
Yeah,
young media person gets behind. It is like you can't catch up.
you can't.
It's like you're in quicksand and then someone keeps throwing you a heavier rock. Anyway, bottom line is my mouth got so dry that I couldn't feel my tongue. I mean, it was awful. It was so humiliating. It was so bad. This whole crew's looking at me like, who is this
This
idiot?
amateur.
No, 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 not amateur. Like, this guy's an idiot. What is
Right.
he doing here? He's so, I mean, it looked like I was incompetent because I was. So we ended up doing it the second time. It was worse the second time. I wanted to die. I literally wanted to carve my heart out with a plastic spoon. I mean, I was just miserable. So anyway, I go into much more detail in the book, but bottom line is that was a moment that taught me a really valuable lesson. That this idea of fake it till you make it is total BS sometimes. And there are times where you can pull that off and times you can't. And there is value in practice.
Yeah, that's one of those tenets in my confidence book about confidence doesn't override preparation.
Doesn't.
It
It
doesn't
doesn't.
sometimes. I've seen that fail happen
That was me.
few times. Yeah.
It was me. And so it taught me a valuable lesson. There's a time to practice and you got to put the work in and then your opportunity to perform. But to go in and try to perform like that with no practice, it's a recipe for disaster. That was a big failure. And then there were moments of rejection, like I do have to mention one story of rejection. Early on I walked into Atlanta sports talk station and got myself in there, talked my way in, was volunteering and helping out the number one midday show. And then I got on the air. These guys were like, "This guy's not an idiot, man. He's." And I had spoken before and been on stage, and so they started putting me on the air. And the program director was always in his office, not really paying attention. And one day he realized they were putting me on the air, and he comes in. He's like, "Come here for a second." And I've been volunteering for 3 months, not bothering this dude at all. Doing a good job. Never asked for money. And he goes, "You can't do that. You can't be on the air. I don't know what you think you're doing." I said, "Well, first of all, I didn't just put myself on the air. They did." And they said, and I said, "I'm just, contributing." And he's like, "You're not an employee. You can't do it. It's against company policy." He goes, "I don't know why you're here in the first place." He goes, "You're 33 years of age, man. You don't have the talent to make it in this market. This is a number 8 market in the United States." And he was just really rude. And I think he was just, I don't know what was going on in his life or whatever, because there had never been a crossword, but he just was putting me in my place. And I walked out of there, Ellen, I was devastated. I was like, what am I doing? And for about 48 hours, I wondered, is he right? And now I'm a nationally syndicated radio host. He was wrong. But, there were moments like that where I had to have a gut check and go, is this worth it? Are you willing to do what it takes? And the answer was yeah.
What I love about those two stories is that you did not allow someone downing your confidence or even a real fail
Yeah.
that everybody can admit.
Yeah, right.
You didn't allow those things to chip into your confidence. They might have for a minute, but you got back out there and you didn't let it come down. You saw the failure as something to overcome instead of something to hold you back, which is, such a tenet of confident people exuded there. When we talk about, like, let's say you're in the workforce, you have so many great things, not only just on your social media about like how to get promoted or how to use different words in a resume, all the different things and some tips. But when you're talking about getting promoted in a workplace, let's say you join a corporation and you want to move up the ladder. What are some tips off the bat that you can share with people, things that they can think about in order to rise up and go after it?
Yeah, I love that question. The first thing I would say, and we write 2 chapters about this particular stage, get promoted in the book. And the first thing I would say is that there's a trap for people that are on purpose. It comes with being on purpose. It comes with being intentional. And the trap is to focus too much on the next. Because you're just driven. You're on the ladder, and anybody that's on a ladder knows that we're climbing, baby. And the minute you get your foot on one rung, you're reaching out for the next rung and you're stepping up. And so when you want to move up the corporate ladder and you get in like that, one of the challenges is to keep the tension, the healthy tension between winning in the now and looking towards the next. So we got to be careful. If we obsess about the next, we'll miss what we need to do in the now, learn in the now, become in the now, and ultimately sacrifice the next. So it's really important to go, okay, I got to know my role. I got to be super clear. What is expected of me? I've got to accept my role. Got to have an attitude of gratitude. I'm grateful for this opportunity. 6 months ago, I would chewed my right arm off to get in. I'm in. Now I have to be grateful and accept this opportunity right now. And then the final thing is you got to maximize your role. You got to go way above and beyond what they expect of you. So if you're clear, the first thing is know your role, be clear. Second thing is accept your role, be grateful, and the third thing is maximize your role. So if I'm clear on what my role is, I should also be clear on what a win looks like with my leader. And so I'm going to go above and beyond. I'm going to crush everything they want me to do, but then I'm going to look for opportunities to do things they didn't ask me to do, to add value to my leader, to add value to my coworkers, to grow in areas that maybe they didn't even suggest, add some utility skills, whatever that looks like for you. Know your role, accept your role, maximize your role. That'd be the first thing I'd tell you to do, because what that does is it puts in place a mindset that will then become a behavior set. Mindset first, behavior set second. And that makes you stand out and thus makes you far more attractive than most people for a promotion. So that's what I would tell somebody in that situation. Look, it's okay to have an eye on the next, glance at the next. That's good. But you better make sure you crush the now, because the ticket to the next is always gotten in the now.
Yeah. Of all the thousands of people you've spoken with and worked with, let's talk about some of the common themes of overcoming emotions and mistakes that hold people back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think fear and doubt and pride are the biggies. I would pretty much take any emotional or mental enemy, so thoughts and feelings, and I would bucket them into those three giant buckets. Fear, so we're talking fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of rejection. We're talking doubting your abilities, doubting that you have enough time or money, doubting that anybody will help you. Pride is, I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to tell people that I'm switching gears or switching lanes because, I don't know what they're going to say about me. That kind of thing. I don't want to pay my dues. I don't want to go backwards in order to go forwards. That's pride. So I just quickly summarized all of those, but I will tell you that the biggest fear that I encounter on the air with people and as I speak and coach is the fear of the unknown. I think it's the greatest fear.
It's so funny you said that. I'll just mention this came out not too long ago, but I wrote an article in Entrepreneur Magazine, and really the ending in the story of my life is that those scary unknown places have been the best. Yep. In hindsight. It's where all of the possibilities are. You know what I'm saying? And there's all these people that are like, well, I'm afraid because what if I try the thing and it doesn't work out? And you go, well, then you're actually already there right now.
Yeah.
You're back to then you're here already. So, what do you have to lose?
That's right. Well, it's interesting is that what we concoct in our heads around the unknown is way worse than the actual unknown itself.
And also the unknown can be changeable. I have a friend who has to move to a different state because of a job, and Disney decided to just say, hey, to 16,000 employees, we're moving to Florida. And if you don't want to, then you no longer have a job. And he was thrown for a loop. But, my friends and we're all just he finally came around to it where we're like, he's like, you know what, though? I've been doing the same old all these years. And so now I'm starting to get excited about the unknown. And you know what? Even if I hate the unknown, I can always change it. It's not forever. And I think that's the other thing too. People are like, well, what if I move there and I don't like it? Well, then you leave.
Right.
So, but they just don't even take a stab at it.
Well, I agree with that, but I would also say if I could be oversimplified in this, and I'm curious to know how you think about this with your own journey. But here's what I have found. Here's what I believe about the unknown. It's nowhere near as hairy as we make it. So, for instance, the answer to the fear of the unknown is knowledge. So, when I'm in a car and I hit dense fog, can't see beyond the hood of the car, I pull over. Terrifying. Okay, that I understand. That will paralyze you. Got to get off the road. But in these situations of life and career decisions, even let's throw relationship decisions in there, from a standpoint of changing careers or starting a business or this great unknown, we give the unknown too much power by not digging in deep enough. If I was going to start a business in XYZ industry and I was going to do this, before I ever got serious about it, you better believe I would find a way to talk to or research three or four individuals that had done it and won. So first of all, let's start there. Like we allow these unknowns to just rattle around our head. We don't dive into them.
Or why it's so funny. It's almost like over all the years, you've heard about like people who said they've been, let's say, abducted by aliens. And there was some stand-up comedian once who's like, why are they always aggressive and like anal probing everyone? Why aren't they like, why are these stories always negative? And I just think about that too. Like, why does the unknown have to be scary and negative and a possible pit full of crap?
Right.
Why couldn't we just say that? But gosh, our minds are tinged to look down versus go, but what if it's awesome?
Well, you nailed it. So here's what happens. You actually nail it with the mind. So absent of an answer, the mind will seek to fill it.
That's right.
So then the negative comes in. So the proclivity to be negative and fear-based is because we don't have an actual answer. So that's my whole point. So wait a second. So if I'm going to start a franchise, I'm going to go find 3 or 4 people that have started that exact franchise and they're actually winning. They didn't start it 6 weeks ago and they're living on the dream. No, they've actually failed and they skinned their knee, they got back up, and they won. So I'm going to go sit down and talk to them. What did you do to win? What were the big failures? What were the landmines that you didn't see coming? This is readily available information if you're just patient enough and diligent enough to freaking dig and find out. Now all of a sudden you go, oh, I was terrified that this, and this would happen. Okay, let's just lay out your biggest fears. What must be true for that fear to come true? But we don't do that. We just immediately turn away from the agony and the discomfort that the fear creates. And it's bullcrap. We got to dig into the fear and go, is the fear protecting me or is the fear lying to me? So the only way we determine that is by actually researching, interviewing people, digging into these fears. What must be true for my fear to actually become a reality? And when we do that, what we end up realizing is, this isn't as big and as scary as we thought it was. I mean, I hate to simplify the emotion, but this is the same thing. I have 3 kids. All 3 of my kids at one point, Elle, called me or my wife up to the room and said, I heard something in the closet or I heard something under the bed. Now, you and I both know there's nothing in the closet or nothing under the bed. Because if I thought there was, I'd have already grabbed the kid and I'd have been hightailing it out of there. So what do? We walk into the closet, we flip the light on, shut the door, return 2 seconds later to show that our body is intact, no monster. And the kid goes from real legit emotion of fear to unbelievable calm. And it's really
Get into the closets, people. Walk into those closets.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. Go examine your fear. So I'm afraid that this could happen. Okay, great. Go dig into that. What would need to be true for your fear to become reality? And so when we dive into those fears and we see, and so the fear of the unknown is so crippling because again, it's like walking in a cave where you can't see of course it's terrifying. Let's just slap a torch on there. Let's get a flashlight. And all of a sudden it's like, no big deal. I can actually put one foot in front of the other and successfully enter the cave and exit the cave. So I hate to oversimplify it, but I'm going to tell you that most of the fear is driven by the unknown. And when we get answers, we're able to then go, okay, well, that's actually not that scary. And I can mitigate that risk if I'm smart, if I'm calm, if I'm patient, if I save up the money, I don't take on a ton of debt, whatever it is. all of a sudden we realize, well, there's really not much risk at all. And this idea that I'm going to fail and put my family into destitution and live under a bridge is nonsense. So the fear of the unknown is the biggest. I think it
Yeah.
just cripples so many people.
Let's talk about, I'm pretty sure you would agree with me on this. If you're struggling at all with building self esteem and confidence towards a goal or a dream, towards your passion and your purpose, maybe you don't go share that with all of the negative skeptics in your life and your Aunt
Yep.
Mary, who's always a fucking downer, and all these people. And this is my
Yes.
advice. It's part of who you hang out with, as you would
Yeah.
agree, or is important, but also stop sharing it with people that are then going to take a stab and have an opportunity to chisel away your confidence while you're on the way to build it, right? Get a coach, do whatever you got to do, get a buddy who you can talk to about it, because otherwise you're going to get everyone going, really? Well, you've never started a business before, or well, you've never written a book before. I mean, it happened to me all through writing my books. I mean, I got downered, but you can hear comments from everybody. So I always say, keep it tight to the vest.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing this up. I think there's two things I'd say. Perspective and people are the gas for the journey. You'll never run out. You'll never quit if you have the right perspective and the right people with you on the journey. There's I think it's over 70 years now. They've been doing this study at Harvard on relationships. They've been following people from birth to death. It's unbelievable. And I've shared a quote recently in a talk I gave on this, that the head of the study now recently put out a statement that said they've concluded that 95% of our success or failure in life, in any area, is directly connected to the people we spend the most time with. Now that's like, I just want people to sit with that for a second.
It's harsh.
I'm going to say it again.
It's harsh to hear. Yeah.
It's harsh.
Yeah.
But it is so freeing if you just have the guts to freaking realize this and take assessment of your life. Here it is. 95% of your success or failure is directly connected to the people you spend the most time with. The reality is that I cannot surround myself with fantastical people who are not rooted in reality, but I can also not spend time with people who are freaking Eeyores walking around looking for their tail all the time. They've never pursued their dream, or they tried it once and they quit, and so they're trying to discourage everybody else. I got to be around people who know me, believe in me, will push me by their own pace, will lift me when I'm down, and will hold me accountable to the journey. Now that's who I want to be around.
Yeah. And that's I think sometimes value that I have as a friend to others, but I have sort of a clear line. Like if someone keeps bringing up something multiple times, but they don't do anything about it, I'm probably going to chime in and go, hey, been talking about that for a couple of years. Are you going to fucking get on that? Or if not, then stop talking about it, or go talk to it about it with someone else. Start doing something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that.
A little tough love on that,
Well, I'll tell you what, I've gone another level now. I used to be that guy because I have the spiritual gift of confrontation, because I'm a coach. I mean, I'm just a coach. I mean,
you
don't
must
mean anything.
I wonder have you ever taken the Myers-Briggs?
Oh yeah.
What are you?
I'm an ENFP.
Oh, okay. I would not have guessed that. Have you ever taken the Enneagram test?
Yes.
All right, what are you? Are you an 8?
I'm a 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But so I tested as an ENTP when I was in my 20s, ENFP in my 40s. So what's happened is a little bit of maturity. So ENFPs are people are the product. ENTPs are progress is the product.
Interesting.
But I will also tell you, I'm good friends with Ian Morgan Crone. We have cigars and bourbon together here in Nashville. And I tested as an 8 at first, and he had me on his podcast, and he goes, "You're not an 8." He goes, "A lot of 3s present as 8s, but you're not an 8." So he said, "Read the book on 3s, come back to me and have you back on the podcast." And he broke me back down. I was a repeat guest on his podcast because he was like, "This is what happens when somebody thinks they're an 8 or they're told they're an 8, but they're a 3." So there are some similarities. I'm very direct, right? But anyway, my point in saying this, I love how you're approaching it. But I've gotten to the point where now, if I get somebody that keeps presenting a problem to me, and the way it happens with me is they're asking for my advice.
Yes.
So if we talk about the thing more than twice,
Yeah. Out.
and they haven't done anything about it, I literally don't meet with them anymore. I just, I'm not going to do it, because here's the deal. There's
Yes.
nothing that I can say that's going to change it. And they've already decided they're not going to do it. They're just commiserating. And I'm not interested in commiserating. I'll coach your butt, but I am not going to commiserate with you. I don't have time for it. So I literally will just put it off, put it off, put it off. And then they get the message.
And those are what I call,
not doing it.
Yeah, you'll probably appreciate this. Those are what I call non-versations. They don't go anywhere. It's just round and round we go. Oh, you're going to do this.
I got limited time and energy.
It's a waste of my time.
You know, like these people that like negative comments on social media on something. I got no
conversations.
time for them. Yeah, I delete them instantly, because here's the deal. They don't want help.
That's right.
They want to take a shot at me. Great. I don't care. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to say, back to your question, I want to drop this very, very quickly. I talked about the right people, but I also want to talk about the right perspective. And here's the thing that I want people to hear on this. If you are moving forward on purpose, if you are serious about your why and your where, you are going to encounter a lot of adversity. You're going to encounter a lot of roadblocks. You're going to encounter detours, all kinds of crap coming at you. People not believing in you, whatever. And you need to understand that that's a good sign. It sucks, and I'm not trying to romanticize it, but it's also a good sign, because that doesn't happen to people who sit on the bleachers of life. The only people that struggle, and this type of struggle, this worthy struggle we're talking about. I'm not talking about people that are dealing with substance abuse and all kinds of relationships.
Right.
I'm saying, if you're struggling on the path, it's because you're trying to move forward. And I would embrace the struggle. I had a hard time mentally dealing with the struggle, because I was always like, I'm doing the right thing. You know, I'm doing this. Why is this happening to me? And then I realized that it is the struggle that gives us the strength to actually be who we want to be. Give a great metaphor that I saw on the internet one time. It's an old parable. Old guy's walking down an old country road, and on an afternoon, and just kind of strolling along, sunny day, and a little bit of movement catches his vision out of the corner of his eye. And he looks over and he sees that it's a cocoon, and he sees the cocoon is subtly moving, and he pulls in closer for a better look to see this is metamorphosis happening. This caterpillar's turning into a butterfly, and he's looking at it, and it's moving, and he can see the little legs poking out of the bottom of the cocoon, and they're fighting mightily, and then all of a sudden they stop. And he gets a little bit worried, and then 5 or 6 seconds later, the legs start to move again. He's like, okay, it's okay. Same thing happens again. This time the legs don't move. And now he's drawn in, and he wants to help this butterfly. So he reaches down, and he gently opens the cocoon, and when he does, the butterfly flips and flops and flaps, comes out of the cocoon, up in the air for just a second, falls to the ground, and dies seconds later. And he realizes the horror of what he's done. In his desire to relieve the caterpillar or the butterfly from the struggle, he killed it because it was released too soon. That butterfly was not ready to come out of the cocoon. It had not struggled enough in order to get the strength of the wings to be able to actually fly and be the beautiful creature it was created to be. And I think we've got to understand that when we're in the midst of struggle that is related to progress, that it is the struggle that gives us the strength to actually be who we want to be and do what we are born to do. So embrace the struggle. It's a good sign, and it's good for you.
That's so beautifully said. I love that. In such great stuff. I really hope everyone's inspired by this. I think so many people right now, with what we've gone through in our country and in the world lately, are really rethinking their lives. And I know, and how wonderful it is to love what you do so much that it doesn't even seem like work. And that is just such an awesome, I forget that what I do is work. Sometimes I get offended if people say, what do you do for work? I'm like, I don't work. I have fun.
Right.
And I wish that upon everyone. And that's what Ken Coleman can do for you. Of course, we'll put everything to connect with you in the show notes, and your books are on Amazon. But tell us where we can find you and benefit more from your work and your genius in this arena.
Well, thanks for having me, Elle. And, I know your audience are go-getters, and I would just invite those women, those men to check out the show. If you want to keep moving up in life, and if you ever feel like, you know what, I want to give Ken a call. If you're going through a tough emotional space, feeling stuck a little bit, feeling down, there's no shame in your game. If I can ever help you, listen to the show. We're on daily, Sirius XM. You can get the podcast every day as well. You can call in. We have a toll-free number, all that at kencoleman.com. So, I always want to invite people, if you need a coach, it's free. So if you don't like the advice, it didn't cost you anything. And,
you could just throw the phone out the window if you
can. It's right, exactly right. But I'm going to love on you, and I'm going to tell you the truth. And my style is one that I ask a lot of questions in the coaching, and based on the answers you give me, then I show you what I'm seeing in the mirror. And so certainly want to invite people to listen to the show, YouTube, podcast, Sirius XM, 75 radio stations around the country. And then, listen, if you've got leaders listening, if I can help your organization get people on the right seat of the bus, that's what we do as well. So, kencoleman.com is a great place just to kind of kick the tires or get any information from us that you might need.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And for everyone else, we'll see you next time. Hey listeners, over the years a ton of companies have approached me to collaborate, but I will only promote companies whose products I believe in and that I actually use and consume on a regular basis. So let me tell you about some of my favorite companies that I can offer you discounts for. Rep Provisions, an amazing company doing incredible things for our planet, topsoil, and animals with regenerative agriculture, and it's my #1 source for quality pasture-raised meat and chicken. Visit repprovisions.com and use code L15 for 15% off. I'm also obsessed with a company called Carnivore Crisps. They make a lean, all-natural, and delicious alternative to conventional snacking, made with just real meat and real salt. Totally addictive, and my favorite ones are the beef brisket and the ribeye. Visit carnivorecrisps.com and use code PALEO10 for 10% off. I also love and regularly use Paleo Valley products. They make amazing supplements and delicious paleo products. I use the superfood greens powder, grass-fed beef sticks, the organ complex, and their bone broth bars. I love the lemon and apple. I also use their essential C complex and more. Visit paleovalley.com/promos/Elle Russ for 15% off. I also love Primal Kitchen. They make delicious paleo-approved, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and no refined sugar products, and I use them daily, from their collagen powders and sauces and marinades to their avocado and olive oil. So good, so healthy. Visit primalkitchen.com and use code L10 for 10% off. I also love paleo powder and use it almost on everything I cook. They make incredible seasoning blends, and they also have these incredible grain-free coatings that feel just like crispy breadings that you would have had prior to knowing that there's another way. So visit paleopowder.com and use code L15 for 15% off.